Welcome to the session on managing stores, equipment and drugs in hospitals. Request to all the students to interact with the experts on the numbers, that is 011 2953 2844 and 011 2953 2845. Today we had expert in our studio, Dr. Vijay Rai. I welcome Dr. Vijay Rai. He is from RML Hospital, PGI, New Delhi. He has wide experience of being a medical superintendent of various hospitals and a member and chairperson of various committees, including a committees for purchase, condemnation and inspection of stores. As we know, hospital supplies are often seen as a major source of causing inefficiency in working of hospital and impacting the quality patient care in hospitals. Hospital administrators are under constant pressure to handle issues and challenges related to managing equipment, supplies and drugs for providing cost-effective quality care to patients in resource-constrained environment. Even nurses too face many difficulties at the first level in the hospital or at the grassroots level in the community institutions to provide day-to-day patient care in various wards, departments, critical areas and community health units. Therefore, it is important to review and understand about material management in hospitals and healthcare institutions. I request Dr. Rai to explain why it is important to know about material management and what are the objectives of material management.
Well, materials are something which we keep dealing with throughout our lives, and we value those materials which have a cost or which have a value for us. And same thing is true in hospitals. And you'll be surprised that materials, they are the second costliest commodity in a hospital after wages and salaries of the staff. And so it is imperative that these materials are taken good care of, they are managed well, and that is why the value of these material lies. And I would like to say that we have to define what are materials. What do we mean by material? So equipment, apparatus and supplies that are procured, stocked and utilized by the organization, they constitute the material. And management of material is a scientific technique which is concerned with planning, organizing and controlling the flow of materials from their initial purchase, their internal operations to their distribution at various service points.
That means material management itself is a very you can say crucial and important process which a hospital administrator actually follow. What is the process of material management starting from the planning till condemnation? Because it is very crucial aspect to know that what is the purchasing system of the hospital, how the demands are being put up, and what type of equipment, supplies and drugs can be purchased directly and or through the open system. And specifically with the computerization today, with the advancement of technology, the use of management information system in process of material management. I would like to request you to explain this process.
Let's focus first on the various steps involved in materials management. And everything begins with good planning. So planning for materials would depend upon that what kind of material do we have to have. So each and every material has to be specified. What we want, we should be very clear what we want to buy. Then we have to have a demand assessment. How much to buy, what to buy, and how the demand should be distributed, how this procurement should be distributed, so that we do not land up buying too much material at the same time. So this planning is of utmost importance, and the planning is not enough. There has to be a proper procurement policy in place. So for example, when procurement takes place from time to time, from people to people, from department to department, some amount of standards are to be followed. Some amount of standardization has to be there. so that we do not commit a mistake. And planning is followed by the procurement process itself. Now there are different processes for public sector, there are different processes for private sector. There are what we call as general finance rules, there are procurement policies which are the guidelines issued by the government from time to time, and they become mandatory on hospitals and all the health institutions, whatever fall in line or whatever are under the government. In private sector they have a lot of flexibility, but they have to be driven by the market forces. So the procurement policy has to be there, and once the procurement takes place and the materials are received, again this is a very crucial step where we have to find out whether we received what we wanted. So there has to be a proper inspection of those items. Once they are inspected, they are put into stores. So the store itself is a complex organization, and it has to place things properly, it has to retrieve those things properly, it has to distribute them, and then after this distribution, whatever materials are left out or whatever material go waste, we have to have a proper condemnation also. And so this would complete a cycle. And insofar as use of information technology is concerned, well, today IT is fast replacing the paper-based system. Earlier a lot of dependence used to be on maintaining registers, and that would breed a kind of inefficiency, delays. So IT has actually been able to take care of that. Today there are off-the-shelf software products available which any store organization can always buy from the market off the shelf. Huge organization, bigger organization, they can always have their own system, so they can create a management information system software for themselves. So that means this application software can be used the way it wants to be used. So IT has changed the way stores are being managed. They incorporated transparency. They are very responsive. They are able to tell you what stocks are going to expire on a click of a button. So there are many advantages which we will discuss as we go through our presentation. We will keep telling them, the students, how exactly the IT going to help us.
There is any advantage to the central purchasing store of the IT system, because every time the wards have to send them the demand. Suppose they are using management information system, do you think there is any specific advantage for the central store in the hospital?
There is no need for people to make lists, because those lists are always there. Once you have raised an indent, once you have made a list of those items, there is no need of a paper being sent. All the demands, all the indents can be sent to the store online. The store can analyze them, issue them, and the details of issue would automatically be available on the ward or at the receiving end. So, the chances of pilferage, chances of bad supplies are reduced to the minimum, and the paperless office ensures that there is a proper accountability and there is a proper transparency is there. So IT is of paramount importance. In fact, most of the stores even in public sector today they are computerized. Private sector is also taking many steps. You will hardly see in hospitals now stores which are not computerized. All the indenting process is computerized, and so this is the way ahead.
I think even it gives the nurses a breathing point to give a proper nursing care to the patient rather than spending time on the paperwork and completing all the records. I request now you to discuss some of the issues related to storing of the drugs in the ward, that is the arrangement and the design of the store, because most of the time we have seen the ward sisters who are working in the hospitals, in the wards, they are busy in maintaining their equipment store, because they are the crucial points who are responsible for maintaining the store of the equipment and the drugs. So I would like you to explain what are the arrangement and the design of the store, which is the crucial point for the working of the ward.
You see, in the materials management process in hospitals, or for that matter in any healthcare delivery system, nurses play a very important role. They are the holders of the indent. They are indent holders, they are holders of the stock. That means whatever is procured, ultimately before it is distributed, it goes through the nurses. And so nurses have a very important job of receiving the supplies, keeping a record of the issue, keeping the balance which is left out, ensuring that there are no stockouts. So they have to raise timely indents, and they have to keep a track on the demand. In fact, they are the most important resource which generates the demand, which can actually make an accurate demand assessment. So nurses play a very important role. And when it comes to holding the drugs which are kept in the ward are always in the custody of the staff nurse. There are certain very crucial drugs which are also known as poisonous drugs. They are called poison not because they are poisons, but because a lot of importance is given to their storage. So nurses have to maintain a poison cupboard. They have to maintain record of those items, and they have to ensure that the stores are kept properly, because otherwise potency of the drugs is affected. They can get deteriorated. The physical integrity of the drugs can be affected if they are not stored properly. So it is essential that for proper quality, they are kept properly, and the stocks are arranged also properly in proper bins, proper storage places. The design of the storage areas in the ward or in the pharmacy or in the stores department have to be very, very clear, and one has to have proper temperature control and air conditioning. The shelf designs or the glass panels have to be properly designed. Protection from direct sunlight is necessary. Storage has to be as per labeled instructions. Humidity control, lighting are also equally important.
I think nurses play a very important role in monitoring the expiry date, because when the patient is crucial, there is no time to see the expiry date. The nurses and doctors have to be so expert, they should know that where the medicines are being kept, and they can be given to the patient to save the life. I would like you to explain about the expiry drug monitoring and the physical verification of the drugs.
Every store has to follow a standard protocol of issuing the drugs, which is first expiry, first out. That means we keep the medicines according to the date of expiry or batch wise. It is understood that the earlier batch would expire first, the batches which are received late would expire later. You can see on your screen that there are certain good storage management. You see the drugs are very clearly, they are kept nicely in boxes. Expiry drugs is visible on the top. This is an example of a poor storage, that you might commit a mistake while taking out the medicine, or you'll spend a lot of time. Medicines are never to be kept on the floors. Refrigeration has to be proper. There has to be proper temperature. It has to be frost free. There has to be separate doors. Doors must be closed tightly and should not be kept open for a long time. Consumable products should be separately packed. An ice pack should be used for transporting. Cleaning and maintenance of the refrigerator are very essential. All the drugs, when they are kept, they should be properly documented. If a drug is to be stored between 2 degrees to 8 degrees Celsius, then it should be a proper record. And whenever the refrigerator is not able to maintain the temperature within that normal range, that should be very clearly demarcated. If the drugs go bad, they should be replaced, or they should be changed, or they should be removed. And similarly, underground storage of highly inflammable item is necessary, like ether, methylated spirit, etc. They should be kept under underground storage. Poison, narcotic drugs, psychotherapy drugs, they should be stored under lock and key, what I just now described as poison cupboard. Expired drugs should be maintained in a separate record, and they should be kept separately from the main stock so that they don't get mixed up. And stocks in bins should not touch the walls. Free passage of air and check of growth of fungus, silverfishes, termites, etc. should be ensured. There should be adequate moving space in the stores. Number of personnel, they should be trained. Everything in the store should be kept neat and tidy.
Tell us little bit about the physical verification of the store.
This is a very important area, because a store in which physical verification is not done would not be able to maintain its integrity. It would not be able to maintain its efficiency. And most of the time, people would not even know how exactly and when exactly to do a physical verification. So normally, most administrations would order annual stock verification. It is an exercise which is taken annually at a very large scale, where every store or sub-store is examined and it is physically verified by independent officers. So people from working in one area would go and check the stock of another area, and that physical verification exercise is done very religiously, where each and every record is looked into. Not only the stock register, but also the indent books, all the kind of loan slips, they're all recorded, and it has to be seen very clearly that any stock which is found missing, that has to be duly documented.
I will request the students to interact with the expert if they have any question at 011 2953 2844 and 011 2953 2845. To continue the session, I will request you to tell us in brief about safety of the store, just what precautions a nurse should keep in mind for the safety of the equipment, drugs and other supplies in the store.
You see, equipment management is also an area we have been focusing more on drugs. It is good that the subject of equipment maintenance has come. There are a lot many issues which a hospital has to face. For example, any service, whether it is laboratory, whether it is radiology, or whether these are wards, hospital uses hundreds of equipment every day. And it has been found that if the equipment maintenance policies are not in place properly,
there are certain points which they have to keep in mind for managing the equipment.
Yes. First of all, there has to be a proper inventory of the equipment. Every equipment should carry a history sheet. For example, when it was purchased, when it was first serviced. That record must be maintained by the holder of that equipment. And whenever an equipment is transferred from one area to another, that history sheet or a record of the equipment has to go with them. Another common error is that whenever the equipment is out of order, it is not reported properly. For example, it is not proper that an equipment is sent to workshop by saying, well, it is out of order. No. The time at which it went out of order, what was being done at that point of time, what was the error messages shown there, those must be recorded, and the engineers in the workshop or the service engineer, if it comes to visit, they must be very clearly told what exactly went wrong. Then there should be proper MOUs in place for equipment repair. So that means whosoever takes the equipment has to give a proper receipt, and he has to return the equipment properly. Once the equipment is returned, it should be properly inspected. A functional demo should take place, and the person who receives and checks those equipment has to also sign and create a document. Unless that is done, equipment would always in hospital you will find the equipment, so there are 100 equipment, but they are not working. And there are certain equipment which require a lot of care. For example, there are nebulizers which utilize very small membranes, and if they dry up, they will go waste.
Just in brief, in 1 minute, can you tell us what are the challenges and issues in equipment management for the top administrator and the middle administrators?
You see, from the hospital perspective, from the top management perspective, the most important challenge is to buy an equipment which is actually being used at the grassroots level. Many times the demand estimation or demand generation is faulty. So many times you will end up buying an equipment which is not being used or which has become obsolete. So deploying the appropriate users in the procurement process is essential. Once it is ignored, you will always land up getting improper equipment which is not be able to deliver and satisfy the user as well as the clients. Secondly, the repairs, if they are generally they are not proper MOUs in place, due to which the servicing agencies, they take the hospital for a ride, and there are a lot of conflicts in this area. So for the top management, it is very important that the user is alive and vibrant equipment repair needs, and they are also aware that whenever the technology changes, whatever they need, the user must have to start thinking in advance and create the right kind of demand. Then only the proper equipment will follow.
We have seen in many stores the equipment is lying. They have purchased equipment for crores or lakhs of rupees, but it's lying without use. Is there any specific reason for not to be used, that it is not in use?
This is exactly what I was saying, that when the demand estimation is improper, when the person who
Is it only demand or training also sometimes?
you see, when the equipment is lying unused, that means it is a faulty purchase.
Okay.
Okay. But when an equipment is issued and it is frequently getting out of order, that is where the training component comes in. So the middle level management, the supervisors, they have to very much alive to these challenges, and whenever they find that the person at the grassroots level is not able to use the equipment, they should not hesitate in training them or retraining them, arranging the demos of the equipment frequently. These are small things, but they matter a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Rai, for explaining us about the material management, that is equipment, supplies and drugs in the hospital, because the drugs, equipment and supplies are the crucial points to provide the quality patient care, and actually it affects the satisfaction level of the patient. When the patient comes to the hospital with the expectation that I will get a good quality care, but if the equipment is not available, or it is not functional, or drugs are not available, or the doctors and nurses tell them to purchase from the outside some of the basic supplies which should be provided by the hospital, they are unsatisfied with the care. So nurses play a very crucial role in material management because they are the holder of the equipment and the drugs, and they provide these supplies for day-to-day use in the wards. It is important to understand that your role and responsibility is not only to provide care, but to see that resources are being used in a proper way, and they are not being misused or taken away by people who just take away some of the drugs and use it outside the hospital. So maintaining a store in the hospital is a very important responsibility of senior nurses who are working especially in the crucial areas, in the emergency areas and in the wards, because these equipment supplies actually save the patient's life and give a satisfaction to the patient. Thank you.